The alarm shattered the stillness of the air. Red emergency lights flashed in rapid bursts, painting the cold steel walls with warped, shifting shadows. I ran down the corridor, my breath splintered into ragged gasps, my heart pounding like it was ready to explode. Behind me, it was coming. I didn't see it. I didn't dare. But the trembling steel floor and the wailing scream threading through the vents told me every second it was getting closer. They said if your eyes ever met its face, the death sentence was already signed. No one survives, not a single person. And that night, I learned exactly why. I'm an operative of MTF Slan, the unit sent in when highly dangerous entities breach control. We're the last line, the firefighters they call when everything else has failed. That night, an emergency signal blared from containment site. The message was short: breach, containment failure. No designation code, just a dense string of top-secret warning symbols. On the way there, the radio hissed with static. I asked HQ for the situation inside, but the voice on the other end only said, "Don't look at its face. Under any circumstances, don't look at its face." No further explanation. None was needed. That alone was enough for my hands to clamp around my rifle, sweat starting to bead beneath my gloves. When we reached the containment zone, the stench of blood and metal hit me. A steel door nearly a meter thick had been bent like paper. Blood smeared across the floor in jagged trails leading into the corridor. A security camera dangled from its cable, its lens gouged deep. The commander raised his hand. We split into teams, following the trail. Every head stayed low, avoiding any image source, even the monitors. From the file we were allowed to read, SCP-096, codename the Shy Guy, is a humanoid of abnormal height, so thin the bones pressed under its deathly pale skin. Cam. It didn't attack unless someone saw its face, even through a photo or video. When that happened, it would find them no matter what and kill. We moved slowly, ears straining for the faintest sound. From the far end of the hall, a wail rang out. But the sound of a sob, ripped apart by agony. A shiver ran down my spine. I'd heard many screams before, but this one felt painfully human, unbearably desperate, as if it didn't want to be here, didn't want to do what it was about to do. One operative ahead of me froze, cursing under his breath. In his hands was a printed photo from an old file, fallen from a shredded folder. Just one brief glance, and I knew something terrible had happened. The well turned into a throat-tearing scream, echoing through the tunnel. We ran, but it was useless. A tall, lanky, white figure appeared at the far end of the corridor, moving so fast the eye could barely follow. In seconds, it was right in front of the victim. Then came the sound of bones snapping, flesh tearing, all merging into a single grotesque symphony. I turned away, eyes locked on the floor, my heart pounding. I couldn't save my teammate, but I was still alive, at least for now. The commander signaled to retreat, but SCP-096 ignored us. It bolted toward the northern door, its elongated body folding unnaturally with each step. It didn't pant, only screamed. A shrill, agonized sound, yet strangely, as if it were begging someone to stop looking at it. We followed, keeping a safe distance. The path ahead was littered with shredded cloth and streaks of blood splattered across the walls. There were bends so dark our flashlights barely reached a few meters, and every time the beam swept forward, I feared his face would suddenly appear. In a narrow section, we found another body, a maintenance technician still clutching a broken tablet. The cracked screen faintly displayed an image, and I understood instantly why he was dead. Far ahead, SCP-096's scream suddenly pitched higher, shaking the very air. It had found its next target. And this time, we were much closer. I began to realize something strange. This scream wasn't the roar of a creature thrilled by killing. It was the cry of someone enduring unbearable pain, as if with every kill, a part of it died too, But whatever it truly was, I knew one wrong look, and I'd never have the chance to tell this story again. We closed in on the sound, each step tightening the knot in my chest. The corridor narrowed, and the flickering emergency lights made every shadow twitch. I could hear its breathing now, ragged yet fast, like the air itself was being torn apart. We slowed, rifles raised, eyes fixed anywhere but ahead. My ears caught a faint metallic clink, like chains dragging across steel. The scream rose again, and the air grew heavy, pressing down on my lungs. The commander signaled us to stop. His eyes flicked toward the corner ahead. I could see his throat tighten as he swallowed, his finger trembling over the trigger. Something pale shifted just beyond the bend. Long, thin fingers curled around the edge of the wall. Even without seeing the rest, I knew it was there. A body lay crumpled near its feet, face frozen in a mask of terror. I didn't need to guess what had killed him. SCP-096 knelt beside the corpse, its head buried in its hands, rocking slowly back and forth. Its shoulders shook with a sound that was almost sobbing. I froze, my mind wrestling with what I was seeing. This thing had just torn a man apart, yet it looked like it was grieving. We backed away in silence, every movement slow and deliberate. It didn't follow, it didn't even look up. The commander motioned for us to take another route, and we obeyed. But the screams returned minutes later, sharper, more desperate. The trail of destruction was easy to follow. Walls gouged with deep claw marks, blood smeared in long streaks, sometimes broken by handprints dragged across the metal. One door we passed had been smashed inward, its lock twisted into scrap. Inside, 2 more bodies, both in civilian clothing, lay sprawled in pools of dark, congealed blood. One of my teammates muttered a prayer under his breath. The commander didn't stop him. We all knew this wasn't over. SCP-096 was still moving, still hunting, and whoever had seen its face was running out of time. A fresh scream echoed from somewhere ahead, so loud it rattled the light fixtures above us. This time, I could hear the footfalls, impossibly fast, pounding the floor like a drumbeat of death. We reached a wide chamber and stopped dead. Across the room, in the beam of my flashlight, I saw it. SCP-096 was holding someone by the neck, effortlessly lifting them off the ground. The man kicked and thrashed, hands clawing at the air, eyes bulging in pure terror. In a single motion, the creature yanked him close, and then silence. The body went limp, head hanging at an unnatural angle to let the corpse fall, and for a brief moment, its face tilted upward, still hidden in shadow. Oh, that was enough for me to look away again, heart slamming against my ribs. I didn't know how much longer I could keep avoiding its gaze, okay? And I didn't know how many more would die before it finally stopped. We stood frozen in the aftermath, the echo of the last scream still clinging to the walls. The chamber smelled of iron and fear, thick enough to taste. The commander motioned for us to move, but none of us wanted to be the first. Somewhere in the darkness beyond, SCP-096 moved again, not running this time, pacing. Its steps were uneven, each one followed by a low, guttural sound, like a wounded animal. We took the left corridor, avoiding its last known position. The lights here were dimmer, the air colder. Frost had begun to creep across the steel walls, though I couldn't explain why. Every so often, a metallic clank echoed from far away, bouncing down the passage until it vanished. My hands ached from gripping my rifle too tight. Then we heard it, the sound of something massive scraping against the floor. It was coming toward us. The commander raised his fist, and we crouched low, pressing against the wall. The footsteps grew louder. Shadows stretched and distorted on the opposite wall, long, thin shapes twitching unnaturally. It passed the junction ahead, moving with a shuffling, hunched gait. Even in the poor light, I could see its pale skin glisten. Its head was down, buried between its hands, as if hiding from the world. For a heartbeat, it stopped. The air felt like it thickened, heavy with something unspoken. Then, without warning, it sprinted down the hall and vanished into the dark. We followed at a distance, careful not to make a sound. The trail was worse here. Bodies torn open, walls dented and warped from impacts. In one hallway, the floor was slick with water, dripping from ruptured pipes, mixing with the blood. Our boots left faint ripples in the puddles as we moved. Suddenly, the radio crackled to life. A panicked voice shouted coordinates and a warning. "It's outside containment. Pete, outside containment." The commander cursed under his breath. If SCP-096 had breached the outer perimeter, there would be no stopping it before the next victim. We reached a blast door left half open. Beyond it lay the night air, cold and sharp against my skin. The snow reflected the red emergency lights, painting the ground like a battlefield. Far ahead, a pale figure cut through the white, its movements impossibly fast. It was heading toward a small cabin at the edge of the forest. The commander broke into a run. I followed, every muscle screaming from exhaustion. Through the snow, I could hear it, the muffled thuds of its feet, the distant, rising wail. The cabin's windows glowed faintly, unaware of what was coming. We were still 50 meters away when SCP-096 hit the door. The wood exploded inward. A scream ripped through the night, high and piercing, before being cut off with chilling suddenness. By the time we reached the threshold, it was over. Inside, the cabin was wrecked. Furniture smashed, walls splattered with blood. In the corner lay the victim, twisted and broken. SCP-096 stood over them, shoulders heaving. For a moment, it didn't move. Then, slowly, it turned its head toward us. I looked away instantly, staring at the floorboards. My breath was loud in my own ears. Commander's voice came sharp and low. "Back out." Now, we retreated, step by slow step, until the cold night air wrapped around us again. The creature didn't follow, stayed in the cabin, the sound of its sobbing carrying through the snow. We didn't speak. There was nothing to say. Somewhere out there, someone else would eventually see its face, and when they did, this would happen all over again. Even now, I can still hear it sometimes in my sleep. That scream, that sob, bleeding into each other until I can't tell which is which. If you ever see a face you're not supposed to, close your eyes and pray it doesn't find you.